Greetings, this is Junior Morgan of Bob Marley and the Wailers. The time has come for the lion to tell his story. And we have here the lion voice. So listen in and get nourishment for the stomach and for the head cup. Jah,
Rastafari. Give thanks.
You have Rasta, who are Rastafari, but not all Rasta are Rastafari. Rastafari is a defined way of life. You cannot be out there loosey-goosey and say you are Rastafari. You can't be out there and indisciplined, and say you are Rastafari. You know what I mean? Now, let me say that you have once trodden Rastafari who make me state, great King David, you see when you read the Psalms how much time him fall. I'm not talking about that. Let me just be clear. So I'm not saying to trod Rastafari you have to be a perfect man. No. Is those people acknowledge when they're doing that. The people who I say are Rasta, not Rastafari, they're not going to apologize for the way them a live out there. Them say, man, a Rasta way, you know.
Well, lion voice, tell them that's the people first choice. Lion voice, make the lioness them feel nice. Lion voice, with the lion cubs we sacrifice. Lion voice, got to show the people them the life. Lion voice. Well, the leaders of the world have failed in their responsibility to lead the youths them to a brighter future. Well, I and I hear the conquering line of the tribe of Judah, Earth's rightful ruler. I just way Rastafari crowd, unconquerable. Me come to tell them about Babylon, they're falling down. Tafari dismantle you. Me come to tell them about the way Rastafari crowd, unconquerable. Me come to tell them about Babylon, they're falling down. Tafari dismantle you. Me come to tell them about Olipa Palace intrigue, infighting between Solomon seed. Well, Empress tried to want her family to lead. Well, King Michael want him son to lead, but King Michael now watch the orphan married to him niece, who get up every day and a study and a read. He work and he pray every day. He achieve. Them say you're the leader. Every nation need a just way Rastafari crown, unconquerable. Me come to tell them about Babylon, they're falling down. Tafari dismantle you. Me come to tell them about the Rastafari crown.
Greetings in that divine name of His Imperial Majesty, Emperor Haile Selassie I. Glory and honor in the name of His chosen Queen, Empress Waziri Menen. My name is Kwasi Bansu, aka the Dejazmatch Kwasi, aka Ras Kwasi, aka the Reading Ras, aka the Panafrican Happy Man. I'm a creative industry attorney. I'm an artist. I'm an author. I'm an actionist. And right now, I am the host of the Lion's Voice. Welcome to the Lion's Voice and welcome to the Lion Voice Network, where the lions and the lionesses are telling our own story. Welcome to Independent Rastafari Voice, where we are cultivating the Rastafari man to lead prosperous Rastafari future. Welcome to the platform where we bring frontline Pan-African and Rastafari soldiers to tell their stories, and where we talk about what is relevant to the modern Rastafari and Pan-African movement. Welcome if this is your first time watching. Big up all of the new subscribers. Big up the Lion Pride on Patreon. This episode, we talk about what and who are Rastafari. We are returning to the basic. I just finished watching the Bob Marley movie One Love, and it's a global success so far. Largest opening of any film on a Valentine's Day goes to this movie. It's generating a lot of discussion online. And, you know, in my iris, I said, you know what? We need to go forward to the basics because there are going to be a lot of people online searching. But also, even within the Rastafari community, I realized that there is some level of debate happening. There's reasoning going on. I've said here that there is a distinct difference between Rasta and Rastafari. And that's part of what we're going to talk about today. But we need to define what makes someone Rastafari and who are the Rastafari brethren and sistren. We need to put some definition, some, you know, because as I say on this channel, we don't deal with the loosey goosey livity. This is a lion tribe. You see, the people who subscribe here are part of the Lion Pride. The people who invest here are the Lion Pride on Patreon. It's a different settings over here. This is you know, a platform from the root. Yes, we may grow to millions, or we will go to millions. Let me block the sound. This platform will grow to millions of subscribers, millions of views. But we are building it based on the root, because the root have to be there in order to be powerful. So we are coming from foundation. So let us really dive into this episode. So we are diving deep today into who and what is Rastafari. What makes somebody Rastafari? They can call themselves Rastafari. And remember, I'm defining this different than Rasta. And we'll get into that as well. This is such an important topic. I was in a reasoning on Facebook, and within the reasoning, you know, this is with an elder brethren, and the brethren probably around I'm on age, and the topic was, you know, if you don't accept the teachings of His Majesty, can you be Rastafari? And this is where the distinction lies, because of course Haile Selassie the first. That's it. And let me say, I'm going to be giving my full review on the Ballad and the Dread podcast on I Never Knew TV. It's going to be live, I believe, on Monday at 7 p.m. So go over to I Never Knew TV. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. If you came here from I Never Knew TV, which some of the Lion Pride found us through I Never Knew TV, lock in. I'm going to be on the Ballad and the Dread with Junior and Atarchi. We're going to go deep into the film. I'm going to give my assessment. I'm going to see the film again tomorrow to a private screening, so I'll really be able to sink in. But one of the things that is very clear for those who are familiar with Bob Marley Chad is that his message was Rastafari. There's no separating Rastafari from Bob Marley, and that is what makes Bob Marley Rastafari. I would put him in the Rastafari category, although he had a lot of Rasta characteristics, and that is important, that you have some Rastafari who are also Rasta, but not all Rasta are Rastafari. Let me say that again. You have Rastafari brethren who are also Rasta, because Rasta, I define it as a culture. But you have some Rasta are not Rastafari. You understand? So Rastafari, that's what we're going to talk about. Who and what is Rastafari? That's what we're going to talk about. We're putting some definition. The thing get too loosey-goosey. And there are some things that need to happen right now, and that are happening right now, but it is not common knowledge. So one still chatting, oh, they used to chat. And let me tell the ones them this. You see all of this lone lion and lioness business. If you're a lone lion and lioness business, this is not the time for the item. This is Armageddon. This is collective security. And this again, where do we get this sound, collective security? It comes from His Imperial Majesty. So we're going to talk about these definitions. Before we get into that, big up Ramia King Design. I have my Tumblr, big up Ras LIDJ. Ras LIDJ, one of our brethren who support sponsoring the platform, helping I and I to continue to deliver the content. Big up CMAS, Life, and Next Brethren who support, invest, help I and I to big up and CMAS. We're gonna be bringing some more CMAS content about the plant, the everything coming up. That's a long-term sponsor. I do have an interest in that company too. So we're going to be bringing more CMAS content to the item. Also, we have the Haile Selassie's Ethiopia, Volume 1, epic non-fiction journey about the birth of His Majesty. It's a non-fiction book that's written like it's fiction, like an epic fantasy story. So make sure you tap in. We just had an event in Miami, Florida, intimate event. It was well received. The people, them love it. So I will be bringing some footage from that event shortly. We're a small operation. That's why we want once to invest in the Patreon so we can hire an editor. We can increase the rate of content coming out and the types of content, mini documentaries we're going to start with. In other information, we as Rastafari need our independent media, need our independent content creation that's directed to a Rastafari global audience. Even though, again, it may find wider appeal, we need things that are directed, that are carrying the narrative, that are true to the essence and the source. So if the item feel that's important, please invest $5, $10, join the Patreon, and let us continue to grow as a Lion Pride. Big up the Lion Pride on Patreon. 11 Fire Angels are in there. We do have exclusive content in there as well that you cannot find. We have an exclusive journey to the School of Vision where we look at their sacramental growth. That's only available on the Lion Pride on Patreon. We have the School of Vision episode, but we edit out certain things. That's for the inner circle. You have to have some skin in the game. You have to invest, before we show certain things. Again, loosey goosey. This is not a loosey goosey Chad. So big up. All right, so let's get into the topic. I'm going to present 3 essential things for someone to be Rastafari. 3 essential things. And I'm not asking, this is I have to be, someone have to draw the line. One can argue in the comments, that's fine. It's not going to change the reality as the truth. The truth is an offense. It's not a sin. And we have to understand, a lot of brethren who just love Pan-African culture, they're in love with other aspects, Kemet, traditional African cultures. They come into Rastafari and, they are spreading teaching that are in opposition to the king. And me I say that don't make no sense for one to say that they are Rastafari and you're basically saying that the king is a liar and is speaking foolishness to the people as it relates to his belief and what he outlined in his teaching. And that, the mental gymnastics that are required to justify saying that one is Rastafari while at the same time being in opposition to Rastafari teaching to I. But again, I would put those ones in the Rasta category because Rasta, again, is the culture, is the colors, it's the swag, it's the, yes, you can be Pan-African, but yes, you can do other things too because Rasta do things where Rastafari never do. And this is the essence of where we're coming to. For all of the ones who are new to the trad, maybe you saw the Bob Marley One Love and you search and you came into this territory, into Lion country here on the Lion Voice Network. I will say that Number one, Rastafari comes from a living man. It's a livity. When we say livity, that means it's a way of life. The way of life was lived. This is how we became aware, to embrace and to see it within self, is that it's a livity. It's a living eye. True and living is one of the first things you'll hear coming into the movement. True and living eye. So what does that mean? That means that it's true. You can go in the history. You don't like the Dejazmatch, Kwasi, how I talk, Regina talk, stupidness, and you can say everything you want to say. You can still Google and see Haile Selassie the first is a living person. So it's not something where I'm telling you about this or that god or goddess and you have to look it up and you read about it, but you can't see it for yourself, moving through aeration, take on physical form, flesh and blood. Haile Selassie the first. So it's a living eye, that's first. So you have to know that Rastafari is a livity. So there are things that Rastafari in the living that you will research, that you will study, that you will see there's a pathway, there's a way. You will see that there are ones who say they are Rasta, do things when they have nothing to do with how Rastafari live in life. And we talked to Ras Negos. If you haven't seen that episode, watch that episode. And the brethren live in a rough area, or at least he has his shop, in the heart of Montego Bay. Ones will know Montego Bay in recent years, known for the violence. Ras Negos is one of the Ras that will hold it in these environments and respected by rival gangs, all of them things that, neutral ground. He said when you come to his place, the sacramental space that he holds, which is also a shop, ones have to pull up their pants. Ones can't drink no alcohol on the premises. There's a livity is established. So that means when you come in the space, you have to rise your frequency, your vibration. You can't smoke cigarettes. He outlined some basic things that he enforces. In his space, it's a way of life that he is establishing based off of preceptical order. Now, a lot of things that Rasta do out there are not within line with that type of livity, and these are the things that I can't tell a man he's not a Rasta, because who am I to tell it, because he can point around the world of what Rasta doing and how, I can't be biased, so Rasta is broad, it's global phenomenon. But within Rasta, like I say, you have Rasta who are also Rastafari. Within those, there are those Rasta who are living according to the teaching of His Majesty and doing all of those things that, His Majesty show within that livity. So, again, I would say you have Rasta who are Rastafari, but not all Rasta are Rastafari. Rastafari is a defined way of life. You cannot be out there loosey-goosey and say you are Rastafari. You can't be out there and indisciplined, and say you are Rastafari. You know what I mean? Now, let me say that you have one striding Rastafari who make me state, great King David. You see when you read the Psalms how much time him fall. I'm not talking about that. Let me just be clear. So I'm not saying to try to Rastafari you have to be a perfect man. No. Is those people acknowledge when they're doing that. The people who I say are Rasta, not Rastafari, they're not going to apologize for the way them live out there. Them say, man, a Rasta, way, is an argument you're going to get if you try talk to them about how them live out there. The Rastafari brethren and sisters, when them slip, when them fall, them will acknowledge, try to better, try live up to that standard of His Majesty. And most of and I'm gonna explain, the Rastafari and Rasta brethren again. Three things. Number one thing, one of the most important aspect, if one is Rastafari, or to call yourself Rastafari. One of the most important things, but not the most important, but one of the most important things is what? Number one is you must acknowledge the divinity of His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie the First. Now, within that divinity, there's a wide spectrum of how one see it. You have from the 12th tribe who say that he's the character of Jesus Christus and all of that. Some ones who are more extreme want kick out 12th tribe out of Rastafari and said the brethren them are not Rastafari. I wouldn't say that because dealing with 12 tribe brethren and sistren over the years, and also reasoning, you can see that they acknowledge the divinity of Our Majesty. How they see it and how they define that divinity will be different than the Naya Bingi, will be different than the Bobo Shanti, will be different than some of the ones who are not aligned with any house or mansion. So, there's difference there. However, one of the things that is really clear is that they acknowledge the divinity. So that is number one. You have to acknowledge the divinity. And me not ask when I say these things, the three things when I outline is things where I dictate upon. You can war with Iman down in the comments. Take on this comment section. Let's have the reasoning. We had the reasoning on Facebook. That now benefit no one. Have the reasoning here on the Lion Voice Network. Like we boots up the algorithm. Because the more back and forth in the comments is the more that they will share this episode to different ones, who are searching Rastafari. That's how the algorithm works. So we can have the reasoning in the comments. But number one, you have to acknowledge the divinity. Now, some people will say that should be it. This is where I would differ, and this is where I would push forward to say, because why? The Pope acknowledged the divinity. If you go in a secret chamber and, them man they know His Majesty is the Almighty. However, can we say that the Pope is Rastafari? No. The wicked, you have some wicked out there who acknowledge that Haile Selassie is the Almighty. Even in Jamaica, you have some terrible gunman with bleach out and drink the most and work some serious witchcraft and I do all kind of thing. But if you ask them, man, they will tell you say Haile are the Almighty without apology. Haile Selassie, you know what I mean? But they're not Rastafari, but they acknowledge the divinity. So while acknowledging the divinity is an essential component of being Rastafari, that by itself is not sufficient to say that one is Rastafari. The second element that you need to say that you are Rastafari is to acknowledge the teachings of His Imperial Majesty as being the supreme teaching upon the face of the earth, meaning that is the law. Haile Selassie, Judah is the lawgiver, the conquering lion of the tribe of Judah, sit on the highest court in Ethiopia. Above all the appeals, he's the final sound. You know what I mean? It's in the Constitution. You can read it during his reign. So you have to acknowledge that from legal, heretical standpoint that His Majesty is the law, is the lawgiver. And this is where the conflict comes with the brethren who are Rasta but not Rastafari. They do not acknowledge the teaching of His Majesty. If His Majesty says something that conflict with what them a deal with, them lick it down. You know what I mean? I say they don't have to follow that, them not deal with that. All of these things, in stupidness, you know what I mean? Them use all kind of word sound for deal with. And imagine, His Majesty sit on the throne and the whole away. Dead in the throne room and His Majesty a teach and a man of war back and forth with His Majesty. That wouldn't be congruent with Rastafari, And like I said, that doesn't mean that we cannot work with these brethren. That doesn't mean that we must be warring with these brethren. But just we have to understand, and again, this is to the core. This is even for I and I as Rastafari, if you know the self, know one another. Because there are ones out there who are saying they are Rasta and we think it's all in a oneness. But they are in opposition to the teaching of His Majesty. So if you're trying to work and to implement the teaching of His Majesty with a man that feel is foolishness. How is that going to work? No, we can implement the teachings of His Majesty from a core basis, and we may subcontract a piece of that work to a man who have a skill, who don't feel like, that's a different thing. But we have to be clear, you know what I mean? In this time of revelation, everything needs to be very clear. And those ones, again, you cannot be Rastafari and in opposition to Rastafari. That's a house divided against itself surely fall. So we just have to be clear. And I big up all my Rasta brethren them. You know what I mean? Big up the Rasta brethren them. You know what I mean? Because, a lot of positive creativity and thing come out of Rasta brethren. And the ironic thing is that the inspiration for the Rasta brethren is His Imperial Majesty. They just have not fully humbled themselves under the Divine order, come into compliance, the rebelliousness, you know what I mean? Not for the beating we get as a family. Because if we were following Rastafari teaching from them time, that we would have established, it says agriculture is a prerequisite to industrialization. You know what I mean? Even as we built all of these superstars in the music, we would have had farms, we would have been doing all kind of things. They would have been, you know what I mean? But we're rebellious, you know what I mean? Rasta get rebellious and do Rasta what Rasta want to do, and we are where we are. So when we talk about the acknowledging the speeches, we're also talking about the autobiography, 1 and 2. We're also talking about the different interviews. We're talking about word sound, because one of the things from the throne, anything officially that's coming, and we understand that they are speech writers, we understand the process, but everything has to be approved through His Majesty. And how it works, for those who are not familiar from a legal framework, and this is spiritual law coming down through generation to generation, is that Haile Selassie is the voice of the people. So that's why the royal is speaking we. You're never going to see His Majesty say I. It's always translated as we, because He's speaking for the Ethiopian people. You'll never see a speech of His Majesty where you don't talk about the Ethiopian people. So and by extension, with the establishment of the Organization of African Unity in Addis Ababa, bringing the African nations and tribes and kingdoms together in the Holy Mountains. By extension, this is for all African people, because this is now the independent, sovereign African king speaking on behalf of the world. This is how I cited, on a granular level. So I'm saying this for all of the new, young people who might be new to the channel. You just see Bob Marley and you want to know, how do I become Rastafari? Well, yes, it's important to follow the elders and know the tradition of how it rolls. There were Rastafari in America, there are Rastafari in Jamaica. Jamaica's where the movement really coalesce and become global to the world. That's where the seed was planted on the fertile ground, Judah, acknowledging David throne first before the entire world. So you can study all of that, and that's important. Different books about Rastafari you can read. You can talk to the elders, but the key as a brethren is that you need to go straight to the source. This is how I shot up into the movement. I studied straight from the source, His Majesty, and the ones who I've met who stay on the source. These are the ones who have stayed productive, who have not grown weary, who are on the battlefield doing mighty works in their respective fields. So I would tell the young brethren, right, so the thing there, whether you're a farmer, grassroots, whether but the ones who hold on to Haile Selassie within that fullness, and big up Ras Tafari, Ras Miguel, printing the wise mind, the bite-sized chunks of the speech, inspiring ones within the grassroots and thing, who might not sit down and read a big massive book, but they will sip upon the little utterances and thing. So that's what I'm talking about. That is, amongst all of these words sound constitute the law for I and I. However, again, there's a generation rising and a generation that has always been there that holding on to the teaching, and they're coming together now and work is being done, and we're going to bring it to the item here on the Lion Voice. So if you're not subscribed, make sure you subscribe the item, subscribe, hit the notification bell. This is the uprising of Rastafari on this platform. So number one, acknowledge the divinity. Number two, acknowledge the supremacy of the teaching of His Imperial Majesty. And number three, and very important, you have to have this one to say you are Rastafari, which is what? Live the teaching, the implementation. If I just read the speech and say, yeah man, I'm sit down at my house and I watch TV and eat and belly get big, and am I Rastafari? No. Why? Because Rastafari have a track record of work and accomplishment in a real life. It's a livity. We always say that. It's a livity. The elders show us that it's a livity. The elders, the Rastafari elders, them establish a global. I go in any ghetto. I can go in any boardroom. I can go in any rural area around the world. Respect, love. That is the elders' legacy. They lived that. They had to live that. They had to travel through the world. They had to take the beat in them. They had to be the first Rastafari. They had to be called crazy. The work was done. Spreading the word of His Imperial Majesty Emperor Selassie the first. One of the things that, I liked about the One Love movie was one of the first things out of Bob's mouth in the movie was Haile Selassie the first is the conquering lion of the tribe of Judah, earth rightful ruler. Why? Because that is what elevated Bob, was that he was spreading the revelation of His Majesty. And any artist from Jamaica that hold on to that covenant with His Majesty is propelled into superstardom. You can name them off. Look at all of the massive superstar, and anytime them kind of cool off on the glorification of the king, them kind of cool down same way. That covenant is there, you know what I mean? Anyone who wants, because the love of the Almighty is there in the hearts of man. So those are the three areas. Acknowledge the divinity. You have to, number two, you have to acknowledge the teachings as supreme. Number three, you have to live the life. You know what I mean? And the thing about the speeches, let me just be clear here. The thing about the speeches is that His Majesty he speaks very broadly in his speeches. So when you live the speeches, that doesn't mean that you have to become an Orthodox Christian. Yes, he has speeches to the Christian churches, but he also addresses people all over the earth, and he tells you about the spiritual kinsman and all of these things, and the purpose of religion to bring ones into that oneness. He himself is the defender of the Christian faith. So you cannot be in opposition, but that doesn't mean you have to be an Orthodox, because in the speeches he will let you know, say, there's a oneness. Also, when we look at the Bahatawi in Ethiopia, the Bahatawi don't go sit down in an Orthodox church service. You know what I mean? They acknowledge the things that are there, but they walk and they, preach the word sound. They have them locks, use them herb, them do, you know what I mean? So nobody wouldn't say that they are not, within that order. And that's how I see I and I as, coming within that framework of Bahatawi, where we're not necessarily everyone going to go and be Orthodox. Although we have whole heap of Rastafari family who are Orthodox. You know what I mean? And nothing wrong with that. And those ones are helping to keep the blackness, the original, within that church and that order, and that is important, because the Orthodox has been infiltrated. White Jesus is now there, all kind of infighting. People who know the history of the church, even toward the late part of His Majesty reign, know the politics. We're not going to get into that. But what I'm saying, so I don't want to interpret that everyone, every exact thing, but within acknowledging the supremacy of the teaching is, the main thing is you cannot be in opposition to the teaching. His Majesty leave a place for all humanity within his pattern. But you cannot be in rebellion to the teaching and then say you are Rastafari, because now you become an impediment to the message His Majesty is spreading. You cannot be in opposition to the teacher, to the King of Kings, to the conquering lion, to the supreme sound. And what I tell brethren is, respect every elder, respect everyone's sound. But until I can see your achievement and the alternative that you have provided that can match what His Majesty manifests on this earth, I'm gonna go stay with His Imperial Majesty without apology. And I know I'm not alone with that. That's why I can speak with such confidence. What I'm saying resonate with the core, because ones already know them thing. But we have a lot of ones who say them a Rasta, who lick down His Majesty teachings, and who are out there spreading diverse doctrine that are in complete opposition. And these were some of the teachings that infiltrated anti-education. They're against education. That's Babylon. They're against structure. That's Babylon. What, you want structure, you want, no, that's, what I mean? And they equate these things with Babylon. But when we look, they have built no institutions. What I mean? We have an epidemic in terms of our second generation. We cannot employ our youths. We have no economic base. Nothing to do with His Majesty teaching, which was clear on all of these things. What I mean? So, the reason why we are not further as Rastafari people is because, again, everybody mix up in a one, and when one of them lick it down, the ones who are say Rastafari just, you're surviving, you deal with your family, you can't bother for war with a man, so the collective work does stall, right? That's so, because the opposition. Now, through technology, Rastafari linked with other Rastafari, and we are coming together to implement His Majesty teaching and the vision, United Africa, which His Majesty set the foundation. We're on that mission, the repatriation. You have Rasta where lick down repatriation. What I mean? They're not upon that. The building of Africa is not upon them irates. What I mean? Everything mixed up in a one loosey-goosey, indiscipline. No discipline. His Majesty never out there spread him seed indiscriminately, not taking care of children. No, His Majesty never do that. Rastafari never do that, never teach that. But we have Rasta with him, and a Rasta, he will do that. You can't chat to him. Again, what I mean? We're not saying these things to cause conflict. We're saying these things to cause clarity, because we have a mission. And on this platform, this is a Rastafari platform. We may interview a Rasta if him works is up there, because this is also a Pan-African platform, and Rasta, many of them are Pan-African. Not all, there's the same many, because Rasta thing diverse out there. So, what I mean? We might interview them here, we might bring them here, and even ask them about, their opposition to the teaching of His Majesty. Once you hear a man start war against His Majesty, then he identify himself already. But we are declaring it here. Spread this to the community. We want to have this conversation, because, again, I think a lot of things start. His Majesty have the black print. It's been there. What I mean? As I just to implement the teaching. So, what all the items cited? Drop a comment. Let us have the reasoning. What I mean? This is the Lion Voice. We touch these touchy topics. Right now, Armageddon is raging. World War III has engaged. The time has come for us to get our act together, build the alternative before Babylon crash. So we are here doing the work, having the conversations. Why? Because the time has come for the lions to tell our own story. And this is the Lion Voice.
Lion Voice. Well, the leaders of the world have failed in their responsibility to lead the youths them to a brighter future. Well, I and I hear the conquering line of the tribe of Judah, Earth's rightful ruler. I just the way Ras Tafari crowd, unconquerable. Me come to tell them now about Babylon, they're falling down. Tafari dismantle you. Me come to tell them about the way Ras Tafari crowd, unconquerable. Me come to tell them now about Babylon, they're falling down. Tafari dismantle you. Me come to tell them about Holy Palace intrigue, infighting between Solomon's seed. Well, Empress Title want her family to lead. Well, King Michael want him son to lead, but King Michael now watch the orphan married to him niece, who get up every day and a study and a read. He work and he pray every day. He achieve. Them say you're good leader. Every nation need a just the way Rastafari crown, unconquerable. Me come to tell them about Babylon, they're falling down. Tafari dismantle you. Me come to tell them about the Rastafari crown, unconquerable. Me come to tell them about Babylon, they're falling down. Tafari dismantle you. Well, Ras Michael, son was having a good time when he should mind the affairs of the state, cause he's descent from the great line of Menelik II. But he's stepping on toes of his elders, treat his women like hoes. He exposed, now we working with the Ottoman Turks. Say he's descending from Muhammad, but that's not how this works. See, the crown was anointed by the Orthodox Church. So if you're all ruling as I done, you have to put Christ first.